Willow Watson's perfectly manicured fingernails rapped frantically against her office door, a sinking feeling in her stomach as she realized what had just happened. The heavy oak door had swung shut behind her when she'd stepped into the hallway to take an urgent call, and her keycard along with her phone, purse, and car keys was sitting on her desk just 10 feet away, separated by 2 inches of solid wood, and an electronic lock system she'd insisted on installing for maximum security just 3 months ago. "This cannot be happening," she muttered, glancing at her watch. It was 8:42 p.m. on a Friday night. The executive floor of Watson Financial was deserted. All her staff had left hours ago to start their weekends, and security was minimal on this level since the electronic locks were supposed to be foolproof. Foolproof for everyone except the CEO, who had managed to lock herself out of her own office. Willow tried to maintain her composure as she walked briskly to the elevator, hoping to find anyone who could help. The reception desk on the ground floor was empty too, but she spotted a man in gray overalls kneeling by the building's front entrance, toolbox open beside him as he worked on the door hinge. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice echoing in the empty lobby. "Do you work for building maintenance?" The man turned, and Willow was struck by a pair of kind hazel eyes in a face etched with subtle worry lines. He stood, wiping his hands on a rag. "Yes, madam, Hunter Hanson, emergency repairs. What can I help you with?" Willow explained her predicament, trying to maintain her professional demeanor despite the embarrassment of the situation. "I need to get into my office, immediately." "Which floor?" he asked, already packing up his tools. 35, the executive level. Something flickered across Hunter's face recognition, perhaps, but he simply nodded and gestured toward the elevator. "Lead the way, miss." "Watson, Willow Watson." Again, that flash of recognition in his eyes, but he said nothing about her name or position as they rode the elevator in silence. Willow found herself studying him surreptitiously. He was tall, with broad shoulders that filled out his gray maintenance uniform. His dark brown hair was slightly disheveled, and a day's worth of stubble lined his jaw. Despite the late hour, he looked alert, though tired around the eyes. When they reached her office door, Hunter assessed the electronic lock system. "This is going to be tricky," he said, setting down his toolbox. "These systems are designed specifically to prevent people from doing what we're about to do." "Can you manage it?" Willow asked, crossing her arms. Hunter gave her a small smile that transformed his serious face. "I used to install these for a living. Different career, different life. I should be able to bypass it, but it'll take a few minutes." As he worked, Willow's phone began ringing inside her office, the sound muffled but insistent. "Important call?" Hunter asked, not looking up from the lock. "Everything's important at this hour on a Friday," she replied tersely. The phone stopped, then immediately started ringing again. Hunter worked methodically, connecting wires from a small device to the lock's panel. "So you're Willow Watson, of Watson Financial." It wasn't a question. Willow nodded anyway. "Must be interesting, running a company that size at your age," he continued, his focus still on the lock. "It's challenging," she admitted, surprised to find herself responding, "but worthwhile." "You seem to know who I am." Hunter's hands paused briefly. "Hard not to in this city. Your face was on the cover of Business Weekly last month, the refreshing face of modern finance, if I remember correctly." Willow felt her cheeks warm slightly. She hadn't expected a maintenance man to keep up with business publications. "Dad, Dad." A small voice called from down the hall, followed by the patter of running feet. A moment later, a small boy, perhaps 6 or 7 years old, came skidding around the corner, clutching a tattered dinosaur backpack. Hunter looked up, his expression softening instantly. "Luke, buddy, I told you to wait in the break room." "I got bored," the boy said matter-of-factly, eyeing Willow with undisguised curiosity. "Are you fixing her door?" "I am. Miss Watson, this is my son, Luke." "Luke, say hello properly, please." "Hello," Luke said, suddenly shy. "Your building is really big." Willow smiled despite herself. "Hello, Luke. Yes, it is rather big, isn't it?" Hunter returned to the lock, his expression apologetic. "Sorry about this. Babysitter canceled last minute, and I got called in for emergency repair work. It was either bring him along or turn down the job." "It's fine." Willow said, though in truth, she was surprised that building management would allow children on job sites. She made a mental note to review the maintenance contract terms. Luke settled on the floor beside his father's toolbox, pulling out a battered action figure from his backpack. As he played quietly, Hunter continued working on the lock, his strong hands moving with surprising dexterity. "So what do you do when you're not rescuing stranded CEOs?" Willow asked, partly out of genuine curiosity and partly to distract herself from the still-ringing phone in her office. Hunter glanced up, a wry smile on his lips. "This is just my night job, 3 nights a week plus emergency calls. During the day, I'm trying to get my own construction business off the ground." "Daddy builds houses," Luke interjected proudly. "He can fix anything." "Once our toilet exploded and he fixed it all by himself," Hunter chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. "I think exploded might be a bit dramatic, buddy." "There was water everywhere," Luke insisted, eyes wide. Like a tsunami, Willow found herself smiling at the boy's enthusiasm. "That sounds very impressive." "Not as impressive as running a financial empire," Hunter replied, his tone light but his eyes serious when they met hers. "But it pays the bills, most of them anyway." There was something in his voice, a quiet determination, maybe, that struck Willow. Before she could respond, there was a click from the lock and Hunter straightened up. "And we're in," he announced, pushing the door open. "After you, Miss Watson." Willow hurried into her office, grabbing her phone just as it started ringing again. She held up one finger to ask for a moment and answered the call. "Willow Watson." "Yes, Richard, I saw your emails. No, the Davis account isn't in jeopardy, but we do need to restructure the portfolio. Monday morning is fine. I'll have Sarah set up the call." She ended the call and turned to find Hunter standing respectfully in the doorway, Luke peering around his legs with undisguised curiosity at the expansive corner office with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Wow," Luke breathed. "You can see the whole world from here." Willow collected her belongings and slid her keycard into her pocket. "Thank you for your help, Mr. Hanson. I appreciate it." "Just doing my job," he replied, taking Luke's hand. "Come on, buddy. Let's let Miss Watson get back to her important business." As they turned to leave, Willow felt a strange reluctance to see them go. "Wait," she called. "It's late and I'm sure Luke is hungry. Let me at least buy you both dinner to say thank you." Hunter looked surprised, then hesitant. "That's really not necessary." "I insist," Willow said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. "There's a good diner just around the corner, nothing fancy, but they make a decent burger." Luke tugged at his father's hand. "Dad, can we, please? I'm starving." Hunter looked down at his son, then back at Willow. "All right." "But we're not exactly dressed for dinner with a CEO." Willow smiled, grabbing her coat. "Good thing I'm not looking for a business meeting then. Just a burger with the man who saved me from sleeping in the hallway tonight." 20 minutes later, they were settled in a booth at Joe's Diner, a cozy establishment with red vinyl seats and chrome fixtures that had been serving downtown for decades. Luke was coloring the kids' menu with intense concentration while Hunter and Willow sat across from each other, an unexpected ease developing between them. "So, a construction business," Willow said, sipping her coffee. "How's that going?" Hunter's expression was a mix of pride and frustration. "Slowly. I've got the skills and the vision, but breaking into the market is tough. Banks aren't exactly lining up to loan money to a single dad with irregular income." "Single dad?" Willow found herself asking before she could stop herself. Hunter nodded, his eyes flickering to Luke to ensure he was still absorbed in his coloring. "My wife passed away 3 years ago, cancer." "I'm so sorry," Willow said, genuinely moved. "That must be incredibly difficult." "Every day," Hunter admitted, "but Luke makes it worthwhile. He's the reason I'm pushing so hard to make the business work. I want to build something for him, something stable." Their food arrived, burgers for the adults and chicken fingers for Luke. As they ate, Hunter asked about Willow's work, showing a surprising knowledge of finance and business operations. "You know a lot about corporate structure for a maintenance man," Willow observed. Hunter shrugged. "I studied business in college before dropping out to help with my dad's construction company. Then I met Laura, Luke's mom, and we started planning our own business. After she got sick." He trailed off, then smiled ruefully. Life takes unexpected turns. It certainly does, Willow agreed, thinking of her own path, the relentless drive that had propelled her to the top of Watson Financial after her father's retirement, the personal sacrifices she'd made along the way. At 34, she had achieved everything she'd set out to accomplish professionally, but her personal life was virtually non-existent. Luke, who had been quietly eating his dinner, suddenly piped up. "Dad, can I have ice cream? The sign says they have 29 flavors." Hunter glanced at his watch. "It's getting late, buddy. Maybe another time, please." Luke employed his most persuasive expression. "I finished all my homework before we came to work with you," Willow intervened. "I think ice cream is a perfect end to an unusual evening. My treat." Hunter started to protest, but Willow waved him off. "Consider it my executive decision." While Luke deliberated over flavors, Willow found herself telling Hunter about her week, the merger negotiations that had kept her at the office until nearly 9 on a Friday, the board members questioning her strategy despite 2 years of record profits under her leadership. "Sometimes I think they still see me as Harold Watson's daughter, not as a CEO in my own right," she admitted. "Their loss," Hunter said simply. "From what I've read, you've done more for the company in 2 years than your father did in his last decade." Willow raised an eyebrow. "You've really done your research on me." Hunter looked slightly embarrassed. "I read a lot of business profiles, research for my own dreams, I guess." Luke returned with a massive ice cream sundae, chocolate smeared across his cheek before he'd even taken his first bite. Hunter reached over with a napkin, wiping his son's face with practiced efficiency. "Thanks, Dad," Luke said, diving back into his dessert. "Miss Willow, do you have kids?" Luke, Hunter admonished gently. "That's a personal question." "It's fine," Willow assured him. "No, Luke, I don't have children." "Why not?" the boy asked, genuinely curious. Willow considered the question more seriously than she might have expected. "I've been very focused on my work. Building a company doesn't leave much time for building a family." "That's like Dad," Luke exclaimed. "He works all the time too, but he says that's because he loves me and wants to give me a good life." He turned to his father. "Maybe Miss Willow just needs to find someone to have kids with, like you found Mom." Hunter looked mortified. "Luke, we really need to work on appropriate conversation topics." Willow laughed, a genuine laugh that surprised even herself. "It's fine, really. Out of the mouths of babes, right? Your son makes an excellent point." After they finished their desserts, Hunter insisted on paying for at least part of the meal, and Willow eventually compromised by letting him cover the tip. As they stood outside the diner, the night air crisp around them, Willow found herself reluctant to end the evening. "Where are you parked?" she asked. "Bus stop," Hunter replied. "Cars in the shop this week, another unexpected expense." "Let me drive you home," Willow offered. "It's the least I can do." Hunter looked like he wanted to refuse, but Luke was yawning widely beside him. "All right, thank you." In her sleek BMW, Luke dozed in the backseat while Hunter gave directions to a modest neighborhood on the city's east side. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the city lights reflecting off the dashboard. "Thank you for the dinner," Hunter said eventually. "It was unexpected but nice." "I enjoyed it too," Willow admitted. "More than I would have predicted." When they arrived at Hunter's small but well-maintained bungalow, he carried a sleeping Luke to the front door where a teenage girl was waiting. "Mrs. Abernathy from next door," Hunter explained quietly. "She watches Luke when I get called in late. I texted her we were on our way." As the neighbor took Luke inside, Hunter turned back to Willow. "Would you like to come in for coffee? Or is that too forward?" Willow hesitated, then surprised herself by saying, "Coffee sounds perfect." The house was tidy but clearly lived in, with Luke's toys in a basket by the sofa and construction magazines stacked neatly on the coffee table. Hunter moved about the kitchen with efficiency, setting up the coffee maker. "It's not the gourmet stuff you probably have at your office," he warned. "Sometimes the simplest things are the best," Willow replied, settling onto a stool at the kitchen counter. As they sipped their coffee, Hunter showed her sketches of houses he wanted to build, innovative designs that emphasized sustainability and affordability. "These are impressive," Willow said, genuinely intrigued. "You have a real vision here." "Thanks," Hunter said, rubbing the back of his neck in a gesture she was beginning to recognize as his response to compliments. Just need someone to take a chance on me. They talked until midnight, conversation flowing easily between topics from business to favorite books to childhood memories. When Willow finally glanced at her watch, she was startled by the time. I should go, she said reluctantly. I have a charity brunch tomorrow. At the door, there was a moment of awkwardness, neither quite sure how to end the evening. Thank you again for rescuing me tonight, Willow said, and for sharing your evening with me. It was my pleasure, Hunter replied, his hazel eyes warm in the porch light. Maybe we could do it again sometime, under less emergency circumstances, Willow smiled. I'd like that. She impulsively took out a business card and wrote her personal number on the back. Call me for coffee or dinner, or if you ever want someone to look at those building plans more seriously. Their fingers brushed as he took the card, and Willow felt a small jolt of awareness travel up her arm. Good night, Hunter. Good night, Willow. 2 days later, as Willow sat in her office reviewing quarterly projections, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Luke insisted I send you this masterpiece. He says it's you standing on top of your building like a superhero. Attached was a photo of a child's drawing showing a stick figure with long yellow hair standing on a tall rectangle. Willow smiled, saving the number to her contacts before replying. Please tell Luke I'm honored, though I think my cape is actually shorter in real life. The text exchange led to a phone call that evening, which led to coffee the following Saturday while Luke was at a friend's birthday party. Hunter arrived in jeans and a button-down shirt rather than his work overalls, and Willow found herself noticing how the blue fabric brought out the gold flecks in his hazel eyes. No maintenance emergencies today, she teased as they settled at an outdoor cafe table. I traded shifts, Hunter admitted, didn't want to risk missing this. Their coffee stretched into lunch, and Willow found herself talking about things she rarely discussed: her mother's death when she was 16, the pressure of being Harold Watson's only child, the loneliness that sometimes accompanied success. You ever regret it? Hunter asked. Focusing so much on the company, Willow considered the question carefully. Not regret exactly, I'm proud of what I've built, but lately I've been wondering what I've been building it for. That's the question, isn't it? Hunter said softly, the why behind the what. When they parted that afternoon, Hunter hesitated, then leaned in and kissed her cheek. Thanks for making time in your busy schedule for a struggling contractor, he said with a small smile. The pleasure was mine, Willow replied, and meant it. Over the next few weeks, they fell into a pattern. Coffee on Saturdays, texts throughout the week. Sometimes dinner when Hunter's maintenance schedule aligned with Willow's increasingly flexible evening hours. Luke was often part of their outings, trips to the park, a Saturday morning at the Children's Museum, pizza and board games at Hunter's house. Willow found herself looking forward to these moments more than the executive dinners and charity galas that had once filled her calendar. She enjoyed Luke's unfiltered observations and boundless energy, and she admired the gentle but firm way Hunter parented his son. And then there was Hunter himself, hardworking, intelligent, unfailingly kind. He challenged her perspectives without being combative, made her laugh with his dry humor, and looked at her in a way that made her feel seen as Willow, not as the CEO of Watson Financial. One evening, after Luke had gone to bed, they sat on Hunter's back porch, a quiet breeze rustling the leaves of the maple tree that dominated the small yard. I've been thinking about your building designs, Willow said, breaking the comfortable silence. Have you ever considered applying for small business development grants? There are several focused on sustainable housing initiatives. Hunter looked thoughtful. I've looked into a few, but the application process is daunting when you're juggling 2 jobs and a 6-year-old. I could help, Willow offered carefully. Not as the CEO of Watson Financial, but as someone who knows her way around business proposals. Hunter was quiet for a long moment. I'd like to succeed on my own merits, Willow. Your merits are what would make the proposal successful, she countered. I'd just be helping with the paperwork. He reached over and took her hand, his palm warm against hers. Thank you, I might take you up on that. Later that night, as Hunter walked her to her car, the moonlight silvering his dark hair, he paused. Willow, I need to be clear about something. Her heart stuttered a bit at his serious tone. Okay, these past few weeks have been amazing, but I need you to know that Luke and I are a package deal. My son will always be my priority. Willow squeezed his hand. I would never expect anything different. It's one of the things I admire most about you, actually. Relief softened his features. Good, because I'm falling for you, Willow Watson, and it terrifies me a little bit. The admission hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable. Willow stepped closer, her free hand coming up to rest against his chest. I'm falling for you too, she admitted, and for what it's worth, it terrifies me too. His kiss was gentle at first, a question more than a demand. When she responded, wrapping her arms around his neck, it deepened into something more, a promise, perhaps, or the beginning of one. The following weekend, Willow invited Hunter and Luke to her apartment, for the first time a spacious penthouse with views of the city that had Luke pressing his nose against the windows in wonder. "Your house is in the sky," he exclaimed. While Luke explored, Hunter took in the minimalist decor, the pristine white furniture, the abstract art on the walls. "It's very you," he said diplomatically. Willow laughed. "You mean it looks like no one actually lives here? You're not wrong, I'm hardly ever home." She had spent the morning cooking or attempting to cook a lasagna from her grandmother's recipe. The result was slightly burnt around the edges but edible, and Hunter's appreciative noises as he ate made her disproportionately proud. After dinner, they built a blanket fort in her living room, something Willow had never done, even as a child. As they huddled inside with a flashlight, telling silly stories, Willow caught Hunter watching her with a tender expression that made her heart flip. When Luke eventually dozed off, they carefully extracted themselves from the fort and settled on the sofa, his arm around her shoulders. "I've been thinking about what you said," Hunter murmured. "About the business grants." "And," Willow prompted, "I'd like your help," he said. "If the offer still stands." "It does." He turned to face her more fully. "But I need to know it's because you believe in the business, not because you're interested in me." Willow considered this. "It's both," she answered honestly. "I'm interested in you, yes. But I also genuinely think your ideas have merit. The housing designs you showed me are innovative and practical. There's a real market for affordable, sustainable housing in this city." Hunter searched her face, then nodded slowly. "Okay, partners then, in this at least." "In this, for now," Willow agreed, leaning in to kiss him softly. Over the next month, they worked together on weekends and evenings, drafting grant proposals and business plans. Willow was impressed by Hunter's technical knowledge and creative problem-solving, while he marveled at her ability to translate his vision into compelling financial projections. They fell into a comfortable rhythm, their relationship deepening as they tackled the practical challenges of launching Hunter's business. Luke became a fixture in Willow's life, his energy and optimism a counterpoint to the often serious nature of her work. There were challenges, of course. Willow's board members raised eyebrows when she began leaving the office at reasonable hours. Hunter sometimes bristled at the economic gulf between them, especially when Willow absently mentioned expenses that would strain his monthly budget. "I don't need rescuing, Willow," he said one night after she'd offered to pay for a car repair. "I'm managing." "I know you are," she replied carefully. "I'm not trying to rescue you, I'm trying to support you the way you support me." He softened at that. "I know, I'm sorry, it's just pride, I guess." "Understandable," Willow acknowledged. "But partnerships mean leaning on each other's strengths. You've given me so much these past months: perspective, balance, joy. Let me give what I can too." 3 months after their first meeting, Hunter received notice that he'd been awarded a significant development grant to build a prototype of his sustainable housing design. The same week, he landed his first major contract, a small community of affordable homes on the city's west side. They celebrated with a picnic in the park, Luke running around with other children while Hunter and Willow sat on a blanket under an oak tree. "I couldn't have done this without you," Hunter said, his fingers laced through hers. "You absolutely could have," Willow countered. "It might have taken longer, but you have the talent and the drive." He shook his head, smiling, always deflecting compliments. "One of these days, you'll learn to just say you're welcome." "You're welcome," she said obediently, leaning against his shoulder. There's something else I wanted to talk to you about, Hunter said after a moment. With the business taking off, I'll be quitting the maintenance job. No more late-night lock rescues. I think I can manage to keep track of my keycard from now on, Willow teased. The thing is, Hunter continued, the new job site is on the other side of town from Luke's school. The commute would be tough on him. That is a challenge, Willow agreed, not quite following where he was going with this. Hunter took a deep breath. I've been looking at houses closer to the job site. There's one that would be perfect for us, 3 bedrooms, good yard, great school district. That sounds wonderful, Willow said, feeling a strange twist of disappointment at the thought of Hunter and Luke moving farther away. I was hoping. Hunter paused, then turned to face her directly. I was hoping you might consider it perfect for you too. Willow's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you, Willow Watson. These past months have been the happiest of my life since Laura died. Luke adores you. And I hope you might feel the same way about us. I do, Willow whispered, her throat tight with emotion. I love you both so much. Hunter smiled, relief and joy mingling in his expression. Then maybe you'd consider looking at this house with me. Not to move in right away, I know that would be too fast, but as a possibility for the future, our future. Willow looked across the park to where Luke was playing, his laughter carrying on the summer breeze, then back to Hunter, this man who had quite literally opened a door for her when she was locked out, and in doing so, had opened her heart as well. I'd love to see this house, she said, leaning in to kiss him. And any future that includes you and Luke is one I want to explore. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn day, Willow Watson, CEO of Watson Financial, stood in the kitchen of a sun-filled house on the outskirts of the city, making pancakes with a 7-year-old boy who had recently started calling her Will Mom, a nickname that never failed to bring tears to her eyes. Hunter came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and pressing a kiss to her neck. Happy Saturday, future Mrs. Hanson. She turned in his embrace, the diamond ring on her left hand catching the morning light. Happy Saturday, future husband. Luke looked up from his careful arrangement of chocolate chips on his pancake. Can I be the ring bearer at the wedding? Tyler from school got to be one at his uncle's wedding, and he said it was awesome. Absolutely, Hunter assured him. You're the most important person in this whole ceremony. As they sat down to breakfast, Willow looked around at the home they were creating together. Hunter's architectural drawings for his next project spread across the dining table. Luke's school artwork decorating the refrigerator. Her laptop open to a presentation she was refining for Monday's board meeting. It wasn't the life she had planned. It was infinitely better, messier, louder, more challenging, and more fulfilling than she could have imagined that night when she'd found herself locked out of her office with no one to help but a maintenance man and his young son. Sometimes, Willow reflected as Hunter reached across the table to squeeze her hand, the most important doors that open in life are the ones you never even knew you were looking for.